to my channel. Today I thought it would be fun to hand make some Valentine's Day cards with Valentine's Day right around the corner. I have 7 easy DIY cards that you can send to family, friends, loved ones. So let's get right into it. Starting off, we have this layered card with a felted heart sewed onto it. I wanted it to have that layered look, so I cut both of them to size, and then I cut the red one a little bit smaller. And then after the fact, I realized that my cutting was definitely not straight, so I went ahead and grabbed my paper slicer and made the edges a lot more even. So then I just glued it down with a glue stick. And then I went ahead and cut a heart out of felt. I tried using regular scissors and it just did not work, so I went and got some fabric scissors, which cut a lot better. And then the way to cut a perfect heart is to fold the material in half and then create basically half a heart shaped. And then I just cleaned up the sides. Now I'm going to sew this heart onto the layered paper with my needle and thread. I'm using DMC 353 and the biggest needle that I have. I went ahead and poked holes into the felt and into the paper so that I had a path of where I wanted to thread. And the thread I'm using is 6 strands, and I wanted it to be thicker, so I doubled it up for 12 strands total. You also want to make sure that the starting knot is big enough so that it doesn't go through the holes that you pre-poked. So you can start at whichever hole you like. You want to start coming up from the bottom and then poke your needle through. And you want to go nice and slow so that you don't rip the paper, and as well as when you're coming down. So I made my hole a little bit underneath the felt so that you don't see the thread going through the paper, if that makes sense. And then I would go in between the 2 holes that I already pre-poked, and I did that all the way around the heart. I did a terrible job of filming my process, but here I wanted to show that the hole that the thread is going back into is a little bit underneath the felt of the heart. And when you do this, you just want to make sure that you're keeping the heart flat on the paper so that it doesn't start bunching up when you pull the thread, and you don't want to pull too hard, otherwise that will bunch it up as well. So here's what it looks like when it's finished. I didn't want the thread to be shown on the back, so then I added a 3rd layer to it. I used my paper slicer to make another layer a little bit bigger than the white layer. Once that's glued on, you are pretty much done with this. I went ahead and added a little message saying, "You make me so happy," spelling sew S-E-W instead of S-O for a little pun. This next one is just this super cute, easy pop-up card with mini hearts to make a hot air balloon. I started by making some mini clouds out of the white construction paper. I totally freehanded this. Made them look as much of a cloud as I could, and then just made them a size that would fit onto the background. Then I used the red construction paper to make some mini hearts. These are going to be all the same size, and I made 4 of them. Next, I used a paper bag and cut out as much of a surface as I could that didn't have any creases or labels on them. Once the edges are straightened out, it is time to construct the card. I used Elmer's liquid glue for this because I felt like it would hold the heart pieces together better. I started by gluing down the clouds to get an idea of where I wanted to put the hearts. I fully glued the bottom heart in place, and then I only glued the seam of the other 3 hearts on top of each other so that they would be able to pop up. And then I put another cloud at the bottom, and then I drew in the basket of the hot air balloon. There is the finished product. Again, another pun, and then that's it for this card. Now this next one did take a lot of time, but I absolutely love hedgehogs, so I was dedicated to it. Did not want it to be very big, so I decided to make the card rather small. I started by cutting a piece of red construction paper to be a square, and to do that you just fold one corner to the edge of the paper and then cut off the excess and you have a square. So I folded that in half and then I cut that in half to make a small card. Before gluing down any of the toothpicks, I wanted to make the outline of my hedgehog so that I had an idea of where I wanted to glue the toothpicks, and it's just this front view of a hedgehog holding a little sign. And now the hot gluing begins. I just went for it. I tried to do an outline, but the toothpicks weren't staying, so then I just started to glue. And I would cut a little bit here and there. The top part of the hedgehog has 2 layers of toothpicks, and then the bottom section just has 1 layer of toothpicks all the same size. To make it seem a little bit more 3D, I added some gold permanent marker for some effect, and then I also hot glued some dots for the eyes that made the eyes a lot more prominent. But yeah, I think it turned out to be super cute. This next one was super fun to make, and I think it's a great card to actually send to someone since it includes an envelope. I used a piece of red fabric that I had on hand and then these patterned scissors, which I thought were super cool, and I just cut off the sides of the fabric. And then I hot glued the fabric onto a piece of paper bag. Next I used red construction paper to cut out some mini hearts in all different sizes. And then I'm making an envelope shape with a rectangle and a triangle. And then I glued those down first so that I can have an idea of where to place the hearts. I only glued on the crease so that the hearts would still be popping up a little bit on the card. When I completed the envelope, it didn't really seem like the hearts were coming out of the envelope. So then I made more mini hearts, and I would cut them in half so that it would be half of the heart is coming out of the envelope, and I made those really, really small. I definitely think that helped with the effect that I was going for. And then I just kind of added a little bit more hearts here and there to make it more full. I absolutely love this next one. I think it's so fun. I made a small square card out of the light pink construction paper, and I just cleaned up the side. And then I'm using this pink boa I found hidden away in our craft bin. The price tag says $3.99, but I have no idea where we purchased this at. I'm pretty sure I've seen these at the Dollar Tree before, but I just cut it to size, and then I use a hot glue gun, and I'm trying to use as little hot glue as I possibly can. I don't want to mat down the fluffiness. And then I take a piece of red construction paper and make a heart and cut it to size, and then hot glue that into the middle of it. So I guess I got too excited gluing down the heart because I didn't pay attention to the direction that the heart was being placed on, and yeah, turns out that I did not place it correctly. So I ended up just cutting off the back part of the card and writing the message on the back of it. It still turned out to be super cute, and I am so happy with it. I think it's still fun and fluffy. The next one is this very simple looking heart made out of ribbon. Starting off, I made the card out of white construction paper, and then I cut out a heart shaped for the front. I used just a spare piece for the back of it and cut it to be a little bit smaller than that front page. I used a pencil to trace the furthest points of the heart. I cut the ribbon to the longest point that it could possibly be, so from one side of the heart to the other, and then I kind of just eyeballed how many pieces I would need, rounded up a little bit. I decided to do 5 cuts of each ribbon. I had 5 ribbons, so that was 25 pieces of ribbon. Once all the ribbons were cut, I used a glue gun to glue the ribbons into place. I kept the same color pattern throughout the whole page, and it turned out that I had just enough ribbon to fill up the inside of the heart. And then to connect it to the front of it, I used the hot glue gun on the front page, outlined the heart shape, not really close to the edge, otherwise when you pushed on the paper the glue would come seeping out, and that's not what I wanted. So just a little bit of room in between, and then push it down to secure it. This last card is probably my favorite. I think it's such a clever way to create these paper roses, and I think it turned out to be such a pretty card. So I'm using the other mini square card that I made when I was making the hedgehog card. I lightly traced out a heart shape on the front of the card so that I had a guideline of how many roses I wanted to make. So to make a rose you want more of an oval shape, so I'm cutting off the corners of this rectangle. Then to create the spiral, you start at a corner and slowly close the scissors while your guide hand is moving the paper in a circular direction, making sure that you're not cutting the actual spiral. Now to roll it, you want a tight middle, and you're just going with the feel of the paper. So you don't want to force it any which way. You want to be very careful because it's very thin paper and it could be easily ripped. I have ripped a number of roses, but you just want to have a good tight roll in the beginning so that when you loosen it up it creates a perfect little rose. And it's okay if the spiral is not very symmetrical. The more uneven it is, the more natural look it has to it. Before gluing the rose onto the paper, I tightened it up a little bit and glued the tail to itself, and then made a little glue dot on the front of the card and put the rose on that glue dot. And I made sure that the outside and the inside of the spiral was secured to the front of the card. And the diameters of the roses can be adjusted by how tight you make the final rose. So you can see the white one at the top and the pink one. Those are a lot bigger because I didn't tighten them up as tight. And the smaller ones are a lot more smaller in diameter because they are tight. So that is it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I had such a fun time making all these cards. Comment below which one is your favorite, and I'll see you in the next one.